Captain Jiwan pressed her palm against the cold metal wall of the ship bridge. Outside the thick windows, space looked different than it had just minutes before. The stars were wrong. Everything was wrong, but also somehow right. "Status report," she called to her crew aboard the Perseverance. "All systems green, Captain," replied Lieutenant Minsu from his station. "But the star maps don't match anything we know. We're definitely not in our solar system anymore." 3 hours ago, they had been orbiting Earth. Now they floated in completely. Unknown space. The Nexus Gate had worked. The ancient alien ring they discovered near Pluto had actually transported them across the galaxy in seconds. Dr. Sunho looked up from his instruments. His face was pale but excited. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures nearby. Artificial ones. We're not alone out here." Jiwan nodded. They knew this might happen. The gate had to lead somewhere. The question was whether that somewhere would be friendly. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jiwan of Earthship Perseverance. Please respond." Static filled the communications channel for long seconds. Then a voice answered. It spoke perfect Korean, though something about the accent seemed strange. "Greetings, Perseverance. We have been waiting for you. Please follow our guidance ships to Avaleth Prime. The Convergence Council wishes to meet you." 2 sleek silver ships appeared from nowhere. They moved like nothing Jiwan had ever seen. No visible engines, no exhaust, just smooth flight through space. "Follow them," she ordered. The journey took 6 hours. During that time, Jiwan and her crew saw wonders they had only dreamed of. Space stations the size of moons. Ships that looked like living creatures. Worlds covered in crystal cities that sparkled like diamonds. "How many species are out here?" whispered Engineer Suyong. "We're about to find out," Jiwan replied. Avaleth Prime was beautiful beyond words. The planet's surface showed different colored zones. Blue oceans, green forests, silver deserts, and gold mountains all blended together. Cities floated in the sky, connected by bridges of light. Their guide ships led them to a massive space station orbiting the planet. It was built like a wheel with 12 spokes. Each spoke was different. Some were made of crystal, others of metal, and some seemed to be made of pure energy. "Perseverance dock at Spoke 7. Your people will be safe there," came the voice. Over communications. The docking bay was huge. It could have held 100 ships their size. As they landed, Jiwan saw other vessels. Each one was completely different from the others. Some looked like seashells. Others were geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. One appeared to be made of flowing water held in an invisible container. 12 different species, Dr. Sunho said quietly. 12 different ships, and now us. A delegation waited for them in the docking bay. Jiwan had seen many things in her years as a space captain, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The beings standing before them were clearly not human. One looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through its body in patterns. Another seemed to be made of smoke that held a roughly human shape. A third was clearly aquatic, wearing some kind of water-filled suit that let it breathe. "Welcome, humans of Earth," said the crystal being. Its voice came from everywhere at once. "I am Speaker Theral of the Valari. We represent the galactic convergence. You are the 13th species to join us." Jiwan stepped forward. She had been chosen for this mission, partly because she spoke 12 languages and had experience with first contact situations. But no training could have prepared her for this. "Thank you for welcoming us, Speaker Theral. I am Captain Jiwan. We come in peace and friendship." "Your species shows great promise," said the smoke being. "I am Whisper Morvain of the Molten. We have watched your progress with interest. Your people adapt quickly to new situations." The aquatic being spoke next. "I am Deep Current Zalesh of the Zeridians. Your species has something special, something we have not seen in other races." "What do you mean?" asked Jiwan. "You will understand in time," replied Speaker Theral. "Come. The council wishes to meet you properly. There is much to discuss." They were led through corridors that changed as they walked. Sometimes the walls were metal, sometimes crystal, sometimes they seemed to be walking through a forest. Each section belonged to a different species. The council chamber was in the center of the station. It was a vast, circular room with representatives from all 12 species. As Jiwan and her crew entered, she felt the weight of history. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The next few hours passed in a blur of introductions and explanations. Each species had different abilities and technologies. The Valari could manipulate light and energy. The Molthen existed partially, outside normal space. The Zeridians had mastered biological sciences. There were 9 other species, each with their own amazing abilities. "Your people have something unique," explained Speaker Therrell during a break in the formal meetings. "Most species, when they discover they are not alone, become afraid. They build weapons first, then think about diplomacy. But your ship came through the gate with scientific equipment and peaceful intentions." Dr. Sunho leaned forward. "We've always been curious about what's out there. Fear seemed less important than learning." "Exactly," said Deep Current Zalesh. "Curiosity over fear. That is rare." As the day continued, Jiwan began to relax. These beings were clearly advanced far beyond humanity, but they seemed genuinely friendly. They spoke of trade agreements, technology sharing, and cultural exchange. Then everything changed. Alarms began sounding throughout the station. The crystal beings suddenly blazed with light. The Molthen flickered like candles in wind. The Zeridians' water suits began to bubble frantically. "What's happening?" Jiwan demanded. Speaker Therrell's light patterns shifted to colors that hurt to look at. "The deep monitors have detected something terrible, something that will change everything." Dr. Sunho was already checking his instruments. "Captain, I'm reading. Massive energy disturbances from the galactic core. Something big is happening out there." Whisper Morvain's smoky form became more solid. "The ancient warning systems have activated, systems that have been silent for millions of years." "What kind of warning systems?" asked Engineer Su-Young. Deep Current Zalesh answered, his translated voice heavy with fear. "The kind that were built to detect the end of everything." Speaker Therrell turned to address the entire council chamber. "The galaxy's core is destabilizing. The reaction cannot be stopped. We have perhaps 10,000 years before the destruction reaches the outer systems." "But that's impossible," Dr. Sunho protested. "Stars don't just start a chain reaction like that." "They do if something makes them," replied Whisper Morvain grimly. The council chamber fell silent. 12 species, each representing millions of worlds and billions of lives, faced the same terrible truth. Their galaxy was dying. "We must call an emergency session," declared Speaker Therrell. "All species must be informed. We have decisions to make." Jiwan looked at her crew. They had come seeking knowledge and friendship. Instead, they had arrived just in time for the end of the world. "How long do we have to decide?" she asked. The reaction moves slowly at first, then faster," explained Deep Current Zalesh. "We have perhaps 50 years to choose our path. After that, the choice will be made for us." As the delegates scattered to contact their home worlds, Jiwan remained in the observation deck with her crew. Outside, the galaxy stretched in all directions. Billions of stars, countless worlds, infinite possibilities. All of it was going to burn. "What do we do now, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Minsu. Jiwan watched the stars and thought about Earth. About the billions of people who had no idea their galaxy was doomed. About all the species that hadn't yet reached the stars, who would die without ever knowing why. "Now, we find out what kind of species we really are," she said quietly. The next few days would test everything humanity believed about itself. And the whole galaxy was watching. The emergency council chamber buzzed with activity. Representatives from all 12 species filled the massive room. Captain Jiwan sat with her crew in the newly created 13th section. 3 days had passed since the terrible discovery. 3 days of non-stop meetings and growing panic. Speaker Therrell stood at the center of the chamber. The crystal being's light patterns were dim and sad. "Fellow Convergence members, we have confirmed the worst. The galactic core reaction will consume everything. Every star, every planet, every life." Whisper Morvain floated beside the speaker. The smoke being's form was more solid than usual. showing stress. Our scientists have run the calculations 1,000 times. The result is always the same. Death approaches like a wave of fire. Ambassador Minji, the human diplomat who had arrived on a fast ship 2 days ago, leaned forward. She had been chosen for her calm nature and skill with languages. How long do we have exactly? Deep Current Zalesh's watersuit bubbled as he spoke. The destruction moves in stages. First the inner systems die, then the middle zones. The outer rim, where most of our colonies exist, has perhaps 10,000 years. 10,000 years sounds like a long time, said Captain Jiwan. But for entire civilizations to relocate, it's nothing. Which brings us to our choice, Speaker Thurl announced. The Valari Council has spent 3 days developing a solution. We call it the Exodus Protocol. Lights dimmed around the chamber as a massive display appeared in the air above them. It showed the entire galaxy, then pulled back to show the dark space between galaxies. Far away, the spiral shape of Andromeda Galaxy glowed in the distance. The plan is simple, continued Speaker Thurl. We build the largest ships ever constructed, generation ships capable of carrying entire populations. We leave this galaxy and travel to Andromeda. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some sounded hopeful, others worried. The journey will take 50,000 years, added Whisper Morvain. Our people will sleep in stasis chambers for the entire trip. When they wake, they will be in a new galaxy, safe from the fire. Dr. Sunho raised his hand. What about the species that haven't developed spaceflight yet? The ones still living on single planets? The chamber fell quiet. It was Deep Current Zalesh who answered. They cannot be saved. We do not have the resources to evacuate every living being in the galaxy. How many species are we talking about? Asked Engineer Suyong. Current estimates suggest 40,000 intelligent species exist in our galaxy, replied Speaker Thurl. Of those, only 300 have developed interstellar travel. The rest will die with their worlds. Ambassador. Minji stood up slowly. You're asking us to abandon 40,000 species to save ourselves. We are asking you to be realistic, said a new voice. The speaker was from the Korthani, a species that looked like walking plants. We cannot save everyone. It is better that some survive than all perish. The Exodus Protocol has support from all member species, announced Speaker Thurl. The Molthen will provide energy-dampening technology to hide our ships from the spreading destruction. The Zeridians offer their advanced stasis chambers. Each species contributes what they can. Lieutenant Minsu whispered to Captain Jiwan. They've already decided. They just want us to agree. Ambassador Minji remained standing. Her voice carried clearly across the chamber. The human delegation requests time to discuss this proposal. Of course, replied Speaker Thurl. But we cannot wait long. Construction of the Exodus fleet must begin soon if we are to finish in time. The humans were given a private meeting room. It was small compared to the grand chamber, but comfortable. Real Earth plants grew in pots along the walls. The other species had been thoughtful in preparing it. They're right, you know, said Dr. Sunho as soon as the door closed. Mathematically, saving some is better than saving none. Captain Jiwan walked to the window. Outside, she could see the construction yards where work had already begun on massive ship frames. Is it, though? What kind of species abandons billions of others to save themselves? A living species, replied Engineer Suyong. A dead species saves no one. Ambassador Minji sat down heavily. I keep thinking about Earth, about all the planets we know have life but no space travel. We'd be leaving them to burn. What's the alternative? Asked Lieutenant Minsu. We can't stop a galactic chain reaction. No one has that kind of power. Dr. Sunho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly. Actually, there might be a way. Everyone turned to look at him. I've been studying the data from the monitoring stations, he continued. The reaction isn't natural. Something is causing it. Something artificial. You mean someone is destroying the galaxy on purpose? Captain Jiwan asked. No, not on purpose. I think it's an accident, but if it's artificial, it might be controllable. Engineer Suyong frowned. Even if that's true, we'd have to get close to study it. Close to the galactic core where everything is already burning. Exactly, said Dr. Sunho. Someone would have to fly into the fire to find answers. The room went quiet. Outside, welding sparks from the Exodus ships lit up the darkness. Ambassador, Minji spoke first. The other species will think we're crazy. They already think we're strange, replied Captain Jiwon. We're the only species that came through the gate with science equipment instead of weapons. This is different, said Lieutenant Minsu. This is suicide. Maybe, agreed Captain Jiwon. But what if it's not? What if there's a chance to save everyone instead of just ourselves? Dr. Sunho pulled up his research on a small display. The energy patterns suggest ancient technology, something that was built to be controlled but has gone wrong. If we could reach it, study it from close range, we could find a way to stop it, finished Engineer Suyong, or at least redirect it, away from inhabited systems. Ambassador Minji stood up again. So our choice is to flee with the others or stay and try to save everyone. Those are the options, confirmed Captain Jiwon. And if we're wrong about the technology? Asked Lieutenant Minsu. Then we die, said Dr. Sunho simply. But the Exodus, fleet still gets away. Nothing changes for them. Except they lose our technology and knowledge, pointed out Engineer Suyong. Captain Jiwon turned from the window. I'm going to ask you all something, and I want honest answers. If this was just about us, just about humanity, what would you choose? The Exodus, said Lieutenant Minsu immediately. It's the safe choice. Same, agreed Engineer Suyong. Guaranteed. Survival beats a risky gamble. Dr. Sunho nodded. The odds favor Exodus, it's the logical choice. Ambassador Minji was quiet for longer. For just us? Yes, I'd choose safety too. But this isn't just about us, said Captain Jiwon. It's about 40,000 species that have no choice at all. You want to try to save them, said Dr. Sunho. It wasn't a question. I want to try, confirmed Captain Jiwon. Even if we fail, at least we tried. Someone should try. They talked. For 2 more hours. They discussed odds, risks, and responsibilities. They talked about what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of other intelligent life. In the end, they took a vote. It was unanimous. When they returned to the emergency council chamber, work on the Exodus fleet was proceeding rapidly. Ships the size of cities were taking shape in the construction yards. Speaker Thoral's light patterns brightened when he saw them. Humans, we hope you have decided to join the Exodus. Your technology and knowledge would be valuable additions to our fleet. Ambassador Minji walked to the center of the chamber. We thank the Convergence for the generous offer. However, humanity chooses a different path. The chamber fell silent. Even the construction noise from outside seemed to stop. We propose Operation Prometheus, continued Ambassador Minji. Instead of fleeing the fire, we will fly into it. We will study the source of the destruction and attempt to stop it. Shocked voices filled the chamber. Several species spoke at once in their own languages. Speaker Thoral's light patterns turned colors that hurt to look at. This is madness, declared Whisper Morvain. You would die for nothing. Maybe, replied Captain Jiwon, standing beside the ambassador. But if there's even a small chance we can save 40,000 species, isn't it worth the risk? No rational being flies toward certain death, said Deep Current Zalesh. This violates every survival instinct. Dr. Sunho stepped forward. Maybe that's why it has to be us. Maybe sometimes being rational isn't enough. The debate continued for hours. Species after species tried to convince the humans to reconsider. They offered better stasis chambers, positions of honor in the new galaxy, even entire worlds for human colonies. The humans politely declined every offer. As the session ended, Speaker Thoral approached Ambassador Minji privately. You realize you are dooming your species? We realize we're giving our species a chance to be something more than just another group of survivors, she replied. If we succeed, everyone lives. If we fail, you still escape to Andromeda. And if you succeed but die in the process? Ambassador Minji smiled sadly. Then we die knowing we did the right thing. The next morning, the convergent species began their exodus preparations in earnest. Massive ships took shape with incredible speed. Resources flowed from 1,000 worlds. Humanity began different preparations. They started designing a ship not for escape, but for survival in hell itself. The galaxy watched as its newest members chose flame over flight. 6 months had passed since the Great Debate. Admiral Kyungmin stood in the construction bay watching the final work on humanity's greatest creation. The Phoenix was unlike any ship ever built. Where the Exodus vessels were designed for comfort, during long journeys the Phoenix was built for war against the universe itself. Final systems check complete, reported Engineer Soo-young. Her hair had gone gray in the past months from stress and long hours. The armor plating can withstand temperatures that would melt normal metals. The radiation shielding is the best we could design. Captain Ji-won walked around the ship one last time. It was smaller than she had expected. Only room for 500 people. But every inch was designed for one purpose: to survive where nothing should be able to live. "The volunteers are ready," said Commander Tae-hyun. "Every single person on this ship chose to be here. No one was ordered. No one was forced." Dr. Sunho looked up from his instruments. "The science equipment is loaded. If there are answers to be found in the fire, we'll find them." Through the bay windows, they could see the last of the Exodus ships preparing to leave. Massive vessels that looked like floating cities. Each one carried millions of beings in stasis chambers. The convergent species had worked with incredible speed to build them. "Any word from the council?" asked Captain Ji-won. Admiral Kyungmin shook his head. "They finished loading yesterday. Speaker Thural sent one final message asking us to reconsider. I told him our answer hasn't changed." Lieutenant Hyejin approached with a data pad. "Admiral, we're receiving departure signals from the Exodus fleet. They're beginning their journey to Andromeda." Everyone turned to watch the first ships begin moving. Slowly at first, then faster. The great vessels headed for deep space. Soon they would engage their long-range drives and disappear into the void between galaxies. "They'll be safe," said Dr. Sunho quietly. "Whatever happens to us, they'll survive." "That's what matters," agreed Captain Ji-won. The last message from the Exodus fleet came 2 hours later. It was from Speaker Thural, transmitted on all frequencies. "To our human friends, we go now to the dark between stars. We carry with us the memory of your courage and the hope that somehow, impossible as it seems, you will prove us wrong. If you succeed, light a beacon bright enough for us to see across the void. We will return to celebrate with you. If you fail, know that your sacrifice saved millions of lives. The galaxy will remember." Engineer Soo-young wiped her eyes. "No pressure. There." Captain Ji-won called her crew to attention. "All hands, this is the captain. In 1 hour we launch toward the galactic core. Everyone knows what we're flying into, everyone knows the odds. But everyone also knows why we're doing this." She paused and looked around at the faces of her crew. Young and old, scientists and soldiers, engineers and doctors, all human, all volunteers, all brave beyond measure. 40,000 species are counting on us, even if they don't know it. Let's not let them down. The Phoenix launched exactly on schedule. As they left the convergence station, Captain Ji-won took one last look at the galaxy's spiral arms. Billions of stars stretched in all directions. Most of them would be dead in a few thousand years unless her crew found a miracle. "Setting course for the galactic core," reported Navigator Ji-hoon. "Journey time at maximum safe speed 6 months. "Take us in," ordered Captain Ji-won. The first month of travel was almost normal. They passed through familiar space near the outer rim worlds. Stars looked the same as always. Planets spun peacefully in their orbits. It was hard to believe death was spreading toward them from the galaxy's heart. "Energy readings are normal," Dr. Sunho reported during their daily briefing. "No sign of the destruction wave yet." "How far out does the damage extend?" asked Major Junho. "Current estimates put the destruction zone at about 15,000 light-years from the core. We should start seeing effects in another month." "Lieutenant." Hyejin was monitoring long-range sensors. "I'm picking up strange readings ahead. Energy patterns I've never seen before. Captain G1 leaned over her station. What kind of patterns? It's like space itself is angry. The normal background radiation is all wrong. And there are structures out there, big ones. As they traveled deeper toward the galactic center, the signs of wrongness grew stronger. Space debris floated where planets used to be. Dead stars hung in clusters where living solar systems once thrived. The destruction was worse than anyone had imagined. Captain, called Dr. Sunho from his science station, you need to see this. On the main display, he showed readings from their most sensitive instruments. The destruction isn't random. Look at these patterns. Captain G1 studied the data. Even with her limited scientific training, she could see it. The death was spreading, in specific directions following certain paths through space. It's being controlled, she said. That's what I think too, Dr. Sunho agreed. Something is directing the destruction, something intelligent. Engineer Su-young frowned at her displays. But what could control forces this massive? You'd need technology beyond anything we can imagine. Maybe we're about to find out, said Lieutenant Hyejin, because we're entering the destruction zone now. The first sign was the heat. Even through the Phoenix's advanced shielding, temperatures began to rise. The hull started glowing with a faint red light. Radiation levels increasing, reported Medical Officer Kyung-ho. Still within safe limits, but climbing. Outside the windows, space itself seemed to burn. Streams of energy flowed between dead stars like rivers of fire. The normal black of space was replaced by an angry red glow. It's beautiful, whispered Navigator Ji-hoon. Terrible, but beautiful. Stay focused, Captain Ji-won reminded her crew. We're here to find answers, not sightsee. Deeper they went into the fire. The Phoenix's armor held, but just barely. Several times alarms sounded as systems reached their limits. Each time, Engineer Su-young and her teams found ways to keep them running. Contact, shouted Lieutenant Hyejin suddenly. Multiple large objects ahead. They're huge. The main display showed structures that defied description. They looked like machines, but they were the size of planets. Made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light, they hung in space like sleeping giants. Are they active? Asked Captain. G1 Dr. Sunho checked his readings. Power signatures are off the scale. These things are definitely running. Running and doing what? Asked Major Junho. Harvesting, replied Dr. Sunho after studying the data. They're harvesting the energy from dying stars. As the Phoenix moved closer to the massive machines, more details became clear. The structures were old, older than any known civilization. Channels and pipes the size of city blocks carried stellar energy between different sections. Captain, called Lieutenant Hyejin, I'm reading something else. At the center of the machine cluster, it's massive. The central structure was beyond huge. It would have dwarfed Earth's moon. Unlike the others, this one was clearly a control center. Lights moved across its surface in complex patterns. That's our target, said Captain G1. Whatever is controlling this destruction, it's in there. As they approached the central structure, automated defenses came online. Energy beams lanced out toward the Phoenix. Captain Ji-won threw the ship into evasive maneuvers while Engineer Su-young rerouted power to shields. They don't want visitors, she said through gritted teeth. Too bad, replied Captain Ji-won. We're coming anyway. The battle to reach the central structure took 3 hours. The Phoenix was faster and smaller than the ancient weapon systems, but barely. Several times near misses overloaded their shields and scorched the hull. Finally, they found a docking port. It was clearly designed for ships, but ships built by whoever made these machines. The Phoenix was too small for the connections, but Engineer Su-young managed to create a seal. Atmosphere readings show breathable air inside, reported Medical Officer Kyung-ho. But massive radiation levels. How long can we survive in there? Asked Captain Ji-won. With full protective gear, maybe an hour per person. Less if we exert ourselves. Captain Ji-won looked at her crew. This was the moment they had trained for. Everything depended on what they found inside that ancient machine. Volunteer team only, she announced. No one goes who doesn't choose to. Every person on the bridge raised their hand. I should have expected that, Captain Jiwan said with a small smile. Okay, full protective gear, small teams, rotating shifts. We find out what this thing is and how to stop it. As the first team, prepared to enter the alien structure, Dr. Sunho made one final observation. Captain, the energy patterns inside are unlike anything in our databases. Whatever built this had technology we can't even understand. Then we'd better learn fast, replied Captain Jiwan. The whole galaxy is counting on it. The airlock cycled open. Beyond lay corridors of dark metal and pulsing lights. Somewhere, in that ancient maze lay the answers they desperately needed, and somewhere in there lay humanity's greatest test. The corridors inside the ancient structure were wrong in ways that hurt to think about. The walls curved in directions that should not exist. Lights pulsed in patterns that made the human eye water. Captain Jiwan led the first exploration team, deeper into the maze. Radiation is climbing, reported Medical Officer Kyung-ho through the comm system. You have 40 minutes before you need to rotate out. Understood, replied Captain Jiwan. Her team moved carefully through passages wide, enough for vehicles. Whatever built this place was much larger than humans. Dr. Sunho stopped at a wall covered in symbols.
Captain, look at this. These aren't random decorations, they're instructions. The symbols glowed with soft blue light. They seemed to shift and change when viewed directly, but became clear when seen from the corner of the eye. Can you read them? Asked Lieutenant Heejin. I'm trying.
The language is mathematical rather than verbal. They're showing relationships between energy and matter. Dr. Sunho traced one symbol with his gloved finger. This talks about stars. This one about controlled fusion. And this one, he paused, studying a complex pattern that hurt to look at directly. This one is about death. Planned death. They were building something to kill stars on purpose. The team continued deeper. The radiation levels climbed steadily, forcing them to move faster. Finally, they reached a vast chamber at the structure's heart. The central apparatus filled the entire space. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Crystalline towers reached toward the ceiling, connected by streams of pure energy. At the center, a sphere of dark matter rotated slowly, containing forces that could reshape reality. My God, whispered Engineer Soo-young. What is this thing? Dr. Sunho was already taking readings. It's a control system. But for what? For everything, came a new voice. The team spun around. Standing behind them was a figure that might once have been alive. It was tall, maybe 3 meters, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. But it was clearly dying. Light leaked from cracks in its body like blood. You are not the builders, it said in perfect Korean. But you are here. Why? Captain Jiwan stepped forward carefully. We're trying to stop the destruction of our galaxy. Are you one of the builders? The dying being made a sound that might have been laughter. I am the last keeper. I have waited 10 million years for someone to come. I hoped it would be my people returning. Instead, it is small flesh creatures who will burn to ash in moments. We have radiation protection, said Medical Officer Kyung-ho. We can survive here for a while. Not from this, replied the keeper, gesturing toward the central apparatus. This machine requires direct interface to control. Direct interface kills any living being in seconds. Dr. Sunho approached the control systems. What was this designed to do originally? To cleanse, said the keeper. Every few million years, dark matter builds up in galactic centers. If left alone, it tears holes in space itself. The apparatus was built to burn away the dark matter and reset the galaxy. Reset how? Asked Lieutenant Heejin. Controlled star, death, precise energy release, careful destruction that clears away the dark matter while leaving most worlds alive. The keeper's light grew dimmer. But something went wrong. The apparatus malfunctioned 10 million years ago. Now it burns everything. Engineer Soo-young studied the crystalline towers. Can it be fixed? Yes. But the repair requires someone to interface directly with the quantum consciousness matrix. The process takes 4 hours minimum. No living being can survive 4 minutes of direct contact. Captain Ji-won felt her heart sink. Heart? They had found the source of the destruction. They had found a way to stop it. But the price was death for whoever tried. What happens if we do nothing? She asked. The burning spreads faster. Instead of 10,000 years to reach the galaxy's edge, it will take less than a century. Everything dies much sooner. The team's time ran out. They had to return to the Phoenix for decontamination and medical treatment. But now they knew the truth. Salvation was possible, but it required sacrifice. Back on the ship, Captain Ji-won called an emergency meeting. The senior staff gathered in the main conference room while Medical Officer Kyung-ho treated them for radiation exposure. The situation is simple, she began. We can stop the galactic destruction, but whoever operates the controls will die. How long would they need to operate them? Asked Major Junho. 4 hours minimum to complete the shutdown sequence. The room fell silent. 4 hours of direct contact with forces that killed in minutes. It was impossible. Unless, said Dr. Sunho slowly, we rotate the interface. What do you mean? Asked Engineer Soo-young. Short exposure periods. Someone interfaces for as long as they can survive, then the next person takes over. If we use the entire crew in rotation, we might be able to complete the sequence, finished Captain Ji-won. But it would kill most of us. Major Junho leaned forward. How many would we lose? Dr. Sunho ran calculations on his portable computer. Conservative estimate. If each person can handle 2 minutes of exposure before dying, we'd need about 40 volunteers to complete a 4-hour sequence. 40 people dead to save the galaxy, said Lieutenant Hyojin quietly. 40 people dead to save 40,000 species, corrected Captain Ji-won. She looked around the room at her senior staff. These people had followed her across the galaxy into certain death. Now she was asking them to volunteer for something even worse. I need to ask for volunteers, she said. But I want everyone to understand. This isn't heroic sacrifice. This is horrible death in service of others who will never know our names. Major Junho stood up. I volunteer. So do I, said Dr. Sunho immediately. One by one, every person in the room volunteered. Captain Ji-won felt tears building in her eyes. I'll need to ask the entire crew, she said. This can't be an order. It has to be a choice. The crew meeting was held in the ship's main cargo bay. All 500 crew members attended. Captain Ji-won explained the situation clearly and honestly. The central apparatus could be controlled, but it would kill whoever tried. We need 40 volunteers, she concluded. Volunteers to die so that everyone else in the galaxy can live. The response was immediate. Hands shot up throughout the bay. Not just 40 hands, not just 100. Every single person on the ship raised their hand. Captain Ji-won couldn't speak for several minutes. Finally, she managed to say, We'll use a rotation system. Alphabetical order by last name. Everyone gets a chance to serve. Commander Tae-hyun stepped forward. Captain, what about the message? What message? For the Exodus fleet. They need to know what we found, what we're doing. Captain Ji-won nodded. You're right. We send the message now, before we begin the interface sequence. The message was simple and direct. This is Captain Ji-won of the Phoenix to the Exodus fleet. We have located the source of galactic destruction. Ancient machinery designed to cleanse dark matter buildup has malfunctioned. We have found a way to repair it, but the process requires direct interface with lethal radiation levels. Our crew volunteers to complete the repair sequence. Estimated survival rate is 25%. If we succeed, the galaxy will be saved. If we fail, you are still safe in your journey to Andromeda. We do not expect to survive this mission, but we go forward knowing that our deaths will save billions of lives. The fire burns, but we have found its heart. Remember us not as heroes, but as humans who stood between the darkness and the light. The message was transmitted through the quantum communication network that connected all Nexus gates. It would reach the Exodus fleet in 3 years. Preparations. for the interface began immediately. The first volunteer was astronomer An. She had studied stars her entire life. It seemed fitting that she would be the first to try saving them. Radiation suit to maximum, instructed Medical Officer Kyung-ho. Full protective gear, but it won't help much against quantum interface radiation. Astronomer An walked toward the central apparatus with steady steps. The keeper watched sadly from beside the control matrix. "Your species is strange," it said to Captain Ji-won. "No rational being chooses death for strangers. Then I guess we're not rational," she replied. Astronomer An placed her hands on the interface crystals. Immediately, light began pouring from the control matrix. Energy flowed through the massive structure as systems came online that had been dormant for millions of years. Interface established, she reported through the comm. "I can feel the entire galaxy, every star, every planet. The machine knows them all for 90 seconds, she held the connection. She began the shutdown sequence, following instructions downloaded directly into her mind by the ancient system. Then, the radiation overwhelmed her biological systems. Next volunteer, called Medical Officer Kyung-ho as they carried Astronomer An to safety. She was unconscious but still breathing. Barely biologist Beck took her place at the interface. The shutdown sequence continued. 95 seconds later, he too collapsed one by one. The volunteers took their turns. Some lasted longer than others. Some managed nearly 3 minutes before the radiation killed them. Others fell in under a minute. But each one advanced the shutdown sequence a little further. By the 6th hour, 23 crew members had died. The shutdown was 60% complete. Captain Ji-won took her turn at the interface and felt the incredible power flowing through her body. For those precious minutes, she was connected to every star in the galaxy. Captain Ji-won lay in the Phoenix Medical Bay, dying slowly from radiation poisoning. Through the small window, she could see the central apparatus in the distance. Its lights were dim now, peaceful. The ancient machine was finally working as it was designed to work millions of years ago. "The galaxy-wide energy readings have stabilized," reported Dr. Sunho from his own medical bed. "The uncontrolled burning has stopped completely. We did it, Captain. We actually did it." Medical Officer Kyung-ho moved between the beds, treating the survivors as best he could. Of the 43 crew members who had interfaced with the deadly machine, only 12 were still alive, and most of those would not live much longer. "What's the status of the ship?" Captain Ji-won asked weakly. Engineer Soo-young answered from across the room. "Life support is failing. The Phoenix took too much damage from the radiation. We have maybe 2 days of breathable air remaining." "And the keeper?" "Still alive, barely. He's trying to teach Lieutenant Heejin how to operate the control system safely. Says the galaxy will need someone to maintain the apparatus." Captain Ji-won closed her eyes. They had succeeded beyond all hope, but the cost was terrible. Not just the crew who had died at the interface, but the ship itself was dying around them. "Captain," called Navigator Jihoon from the bridge comm system. "I'm getting something on long-range sensors. Ships approaching our position." "What kind of ships?" asked Captain Ji-won. "Unknown design. But they're big, and there are dozens of them." Lieutenant Hyejin's voice came over the comm from the central apparatus. "Captain, the Keeper says those are emergency response ships, ancient automated vessels that activate when the apparatus is used. They're coming to investigate." "Are they hostile?" "The Keeper doesn't think so, but he's not sure. These ships have been dormant for 10 million years. Through the medical bay window, Captain Ji-won could see lights approaching through the fire-lit space around the galactic core. The ships were elegant, clearly built by the same species that created the central apparatus. As they came closer, it became clear they were massive. Each one was larger than the Phoenix. "Incoming transmission," reported Navigator Jihoon. "Audio only in our language. Put it through." A voice filled the medical bay. It was similar to the Keeper's, but stronger, more alive. "Unknown vessel Phoenix, this is Archive Ship 7. We detected activation of the central apparatus. Are you the emergency repair team?" Captain Ji-won struggled to sit up. "This is Captain," G1 of the human vessel Phoenix. We located the malfunction in your central apparatus and repaired it. The galaxy is no longer in danger. Impossible. The repair protocol requires species-level authorization codes that only my people possess. Your people are gone, Captain G1 replied gently. We found one survivor, the Keeper, who helped us understand the system. We completed the repair using direct interface. A long silence followed. Then the voice returned, now filled with amazement. Direct interface with active apparatus systems is fatal to all known forms of life. How did you survive the process? We didn't, said Captain G1 simply. 43 of my crew died to complete the shutdown sequence. Another long pause. You sacrificed your people to repair our machine? Why? Because the malfunction was destroying the galaxy. 40,000 species would have died if we did nothing. But those species are unknown to you. They are not your responsibility. Captain G1 smiled weakly. They were alive. That made them our responsibility. The archive ships docked with the failing Phoenix 2 hours later. Beings that looked like the Keeper but healthier came aboard. They were the last remnants of the original builders, kept in stasis for millions of years aboard their automated ships. I am Archive Keeper Prime, announced their leader. We have been sleeping since the first malfunction, waiting for a repair signal. We never imagined anyone would fix our machine for us. Dr. Sunho struggled to sit up as the Archive Keeper examined him. Your people built an incredible device, but why did it malfunction? Sabotage, replied Archive Keeper Prime sadly. A faction of our people believed the galaxy should be allowed to die naturally, rather than be artificially maintained. They damaged the control systems before we could stop them. What happened to your civilization? Asked Engineer Suyong. We evacuated to another galaxy before the burning began. But some of us remained behind in stasis, hoping someday to return and fix what was broken. We never expected strangers to do it for us. Archive Keeper Prime examined the dying humans with something like reverence. Your species has done something unprecedented. You have saved a galaxy that was not your own, using knowledge you did not possess at a cost you could not afford. Will our crew survive? Asked Captain G1. Some will. Our medical technology is far advanced beyond yours. We can treat radiation poisoning that would be fatal by your standards. But some injuries are beyond even our abilities. Over the next few days, the Archive Keepers worked to save as many of the Phoenix crew as possible. Their technology was incredible. They could repair cellular damage, regenerate organs, even restore brain function that had been damaged by extreme radiation. 12 of the interfacing volunteers were saved. Captain G1 was among them, though she would carry the effects of radiation poisoning for the rest of her life. The other 31 had paid the ultimate price. What happens now? Captain G1 asked Archive Keeper Prime as she recovered in the alien medical facility. Now we rebuild. The central apparatus is working correctly, but it requires maintenance. We will establish a permanent base here to monitor the galactic core and prevent future malfunctions. And the Phoenix crew? Those who wish may return home. We can provide transportation back to your space, but we hope some will stay. Your people understand the apparatus in ways we never expected. We could learn much from each other. Lieutenant Hyejin, who had spent days learning the control systems, spoke up. I'd like to stay. Someone should make sure this never happens again. Several other crew members agreed. They would remain at the galactic core as the first human members of the new Guardian Corps. What about the message? Asked Dr. Sunho. The one we sent to the Exodus fleet? Archive Keeper Prime consulted a display. Our quantum sensors show the signal is still traveling toward their position. They will receive it in approximately 2 years. Will they turn around? That choice is theirs, but now they have a choice. Before your sacrifice, they had none. Captain G1 was quiet for a long moment. 43 people died to give an entire galaxy a future. I hope it was worth it. Captain, said Archive Keeper Prime gently. What you and your crew did will be remembered for millions of years. When civilizations that don't yet exist look up at the stars, they will see light because of your sacrifice. The Phoenix was beyond repair, but the archive keepers provided a new ship for the journey home. It was sleek and fast, built with technology humanity could barely understand. As they prepared to leave the galactic core, Captain Jiwan took one last look at the central apparatus. It hummed quietly now, its lights steady and peaceful. Lieutenant Hyejin and 12 other volunteers would remain to help maintain it. "The galaxy is safe," she said to Dr. Sunho. "For now," he agreed. "But what about the species that don't know yet? What about all those civilizations that are still developing?" Captain Jiwan smiled. "That's someone else's job. We've done our part." The journey back to human space took 6 months. When they arrived, they found Earth much as they had left it. But news of their mission had preceded them. The archive keepers had sent messages explaining what the Phoenix crew had accomplished. Humanity was no longer just another species among the stars. They had become something new, something that other civilizations looked up to with wonder and respect. "What do we do now?" asked Engineer Soo-young as they entered Earth orbit. "Now we go home," replied Captain Jiwan. "We tell people what happened out there. We make sure the galaxy remembers not just what we did, but why we did it. And if something like this happens again..." Captain Jiwan looked out at the stars surrounding Earth. Somewhere out there, the Exodus fleet was still traveling toward Andromeda. In 2 years, they would receive the message and learn that their sacrifice had been unnecessary, that they could return home to a galaxy saved by human hands. "If it happens again," she said, "I suspect we'll do the same thing we did this time, because that's what humans do. We step into the fire so others don't have to." The Phoenix crew had paid a terrible price to save the galaxy, but in doing so, they had shown the universe what humanity was capable of. They had proven that sometimes, standing between the darkness and the light was worth any cost, even the ultimate one. 5 years had passed since the Phoenix mission ended. Commander Yoonji stood in the observation deck of Guardian Station, watching the controlled birth of a new star. The central apparatus hummed quietly in the distance, its crystal towers catching and directing cosmic forces with perfect precision. "Formation process is proceeding normally," reported scientist Dong-hyun from his monitoring station. "The new star should achieve stable fusion within 6 hours." "Excellent," replied Commander Yoonji. Her hair was completely white now, aged by radiation exposure from the Great Sacrifice. But her eyes still held the fire that had driven humanity to save the galaxy. "What about the planetary accretion?" 7 worlds are forming in the habitable zone. Give them a few million years and they'll be perfect for life. Commander Yoonji smiled. This was the 20th solar system they had helped create using the restored central apparatus. Each one was a garden waiting for life to take root. Each one was a monument to the 43 humans who had died to make it possible. "Commander," called Lieutenant Minho from the communications station, "we're receiving a priority signal from the outer rim. It's from the returning Exodus fleet." Commander Yoonji's heart skipped. They had been expecting this message for months. Half of the convergent species had chosen to return from their journey to Andromeda. It had taken them 40,000 years to make the trip back, but they were finally approaching the galaxy's edge. "Put it through." The voice that filled the station was old but familiar. Speaker Tharal of the Valari, aged by millennia of sleep and travel. "Guardian Station, this is Exodus Fleet Leader. We have returned to find a galaxy transformed. Our sensors show stellar nurseries where dead zones once existed. New star systems where empty space once reigned. What miracle has occurred in our absence?" Commander Yoonji activated the reply transmitter. "Welcome home, Speaker Tharal. The miracle was human, sacrifice and universal cooperation. Your galaxy lives because 43 humans chose death over abandonment. The humans succeeded?" The crystal being's voice carried across space with amazement. "You stopped the galactic fire?" "We stopped it, contained it, and turned it into a tool for creation instead of destruction. The central apparatus now helps life flourish rather than destroying it." A long pause followed. Then Speaker Tharal spoke again, and his voice carried tears that crystal beings were not supposed to be able to shed. We fled from our duty. We abandoned our galaxy to save ourselves. But the humans stepped into the flames and emerged as gardeners of life itself. Commander Yunji looked around the station. Human crew members worked alongside archive keepers, Valari technicians, and representatives from a dozen other species. The year, Galaxy's greatest achievement was built on cooperation between different forms of life. You did what you thought was right, she replied, just as we did what we thought was right. The important thing is that we all survived to work together now. Over the following weeks, the returning Exodus ships integrated back into galactic society. They found a civilization utterly transformed. Where once 12 species had struggled to cooperate, now hundreds of different life forms worked together under the guidance of the Guardian Corps. The changes are remarkable, observed Deep Current Zalesh as he toured Guardian Station. His aquatic suit had been upgraded with archive keeper technology, allowing him to survive in environments that would have killed him before. How many new species have joined the galactic community? Over 300, replied Commander Yunji proudly. Species that would have died in the galactic fire now thrive under our protection. Each one brings new knowledge, new perspectives, new ways of understanding the universe. The Zeridian leader gestured toward a group of beings made of living crystal, working alongside human engineers. These are the resonance folk from the inner rim worlds. Their entire species would have been extinct if not for your sacrifice. Not just our sacrifice, Commander Unji corrected gently. Everyone contributed. The archive keepers provided the technology. The returning convergent species helped rebuild. Even species that barely understood space travel sent resources to help. It was true. The galaxy had become a cooperative effort beyond anything previously imagined. The central apparatus required constant maintenance and careful operation. No single species could manage it alone. Cooperation was not just helpful, it was essential for survival. There is something we must discuss, said Speaker Therrell during a formal council session. The question of leadership. The humans have become the guardians of galactic civilization, but they refuse to rule over others. Commander Yunji stood before the assembled representatives. We learned something important during the Phoenix mission. Power shared is power strengthened. The central apparatus works best when many species contribute their knowledge and perspectives. But humans must have special status, insisted Whisper Morvain of the Multhan. You paid the ultimate price to save us all. You have earned the right to lead. We earned the right to serve, Commander Unji replied. There's a difference. Leadership changes. Service endures. The debate continued for days. Species after species argued that humanity deserved special recognition, special authority, special treatment. Each time, the human representatives declined. Finally, a solution emerged that satisfied everyone. Humanity would serve as the permanent keepers of the central apparatus, but all major decisions would require consensus among the major species. New civilizations would be welcomed and integrated as equals. No single species would ever again have the power to endanger the entire galaxy. The Galactic Gardening Initiative, announced Commander Yunji at the signing ceremony. We tend the garden together or the garden dies. Years passed peacefully. New species emerged regularly from worlds that had been saved from the galactic fire. Each owed its existence to the Phoenix crew, but none were required to serve. Each was free to contribute what it could and receive what it needed. Commander Yunji aged rapidly under the constant exposure to cosmic forces required for her work. By her 10th year as Guardian Commander, she was training her replacement. A young human engineer named Taijin who had grown up hearing stories of the Great Sacrifice. Do you think they knew? Taijin asked one day as they watched a new star ignite in the distance. The crew members who died at the interface, do you think they knew it would lead to all this? Commander Unji considered the question carefully. I think they knew it was right. Sometimes that's enough. What if something like this happens again? What if another galaxy faces destruction? Then we'll face that challenge when it comes. The important thing is that we'll face it together, human and alien, old species and new, all working toward the same goal. A priority alert interrupted their conversation. Lieutenant Minho's voice came over the communications system. "Commander, we're receiving first contact signals from the Andromeda Galaxy. The other half of the Exodus fleet is asking for help." Commander Yunji and Taejin exchanged glances. The species that had continued their journey to Andromeda had found something there, something that scared them enough to call for help across the void between galaxies. "Looks like we have a new challenge," said Commander Yunji. "What do we do?" asked Taejin. Commander Yunji looked out at the galaxy they had saved and rebuilt. Billions of stars shone steadily, each one protected by the network of guardians humanity had helped establish. It was beautiful beyond words, but beauty meant nothing if they weren't willing to defend it. "We do what humans have always done," she said quietly. "We step into the fire so others don't have to." The message from Andromeda spoke of dark forces stirring between galaxies, ancient enemies that had waited patiently for new prey. The relocated convergence species were sending a desperate plea for help. "Prepare the fleet," ordered Commander Yunji. "If our people in Andromeda are in trouble, then we're going to help them. Even if it means leaving our own galaxy vulnerable?" asked Taejin. "The galaxy is no longer vulnerable. We've taught others to tend the garden. Now it's time to extend that garden beyond the stars we know." As Guardian Station prepared for its greatest mission yet, Commander Yunji reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a single ship flying into certain death to a galactic civilization built on cooperation and sacrifice. "Commander," reported scientist Dongyun, "the fleet is ready. 20 ships, crews from 15 different species, everyone volunteered." "Of course they did," Commander Yunji said with a smile. "That's what gardeners do. We go where life needs tending." The last scene showed the combined fleet departing for the dark between galaxies. Earth hung in space behind them, no longer the isolated world humanity had once called home. It was now the heart of a galactic civilization built on the simple principle that someone must always stand watch while others sleep. As the ships engaged their faster-than-light drives, Commander Yunji spoke into the fleet communications system. "All ships, this is Guardian Commander Yunji. We go now to face unknown dangers in service of others who cannot protect themselves. This is not heroism. This is not glory. This is simply what we do." She paused and looked back at the galaxy they were leaving behind. Safe, protected, thriving. Others escaped into the void when faced with destruction. Humanity stepped into the flames and found light. Now we carry that light wherever it's needed.